Questions are powerful. Perhaps the two most powerful questions are why and how. So why do we ask questions? To learn, to understand, to solve, to create? Yes, we can create with a question. I'm an architect, and I've been living in Cambridge for the last 15 years. I worked internationally. I've been in New York, in Canada, but I'm actually from Italy, where we all know is a culture infused with originality, creativity, and ingenuity, and also design flair, by the way. My office, actually my studio, is right in the heart of Cambridge. I'm surrounded by really vibrant businesses, loads of startups. I'm right next to Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, and of course, the University of Cambridge. And since I've been in Cambridge, I've been absorbing so much knowledge simply by asking questions. What are you working on? How is your PhD coming along? And that way, I've basically absorbed so much insight and understanding about a variety of different things. So a few years ago, I was involved with the Judge Business School in Cambridge. And during a seminar, I met a really intelligent, very smart, very bright scientist. He was working on a very curious tech called plant-based. And he managed to harvest electrical current from plants, like normal plants. So I've asked him, what are you going to do with this technology? And he said, well, it's a lab experiment. And I suggested that he should really take it out of the lab and build something with it, something that could be understood by everyone, not just scientists. In the end, I ended up collaborating with the Biochemistry department at the University of Cambridge on several prototypes. So this is one of them, where we basically managed to combine pioneering technologies, for example, photovoltaic glass, which you can see through, and it captures, obviously, solar light, but also the living wall full of plants, and via photosynthesis, it basically captured electrons and transformed that into electrical current, which is extraordinary. So how did we come together with this result? Simple. We asked questions, and we understood more about each other disciplines by asking questions. So there is something to do with asking the right questions at the right time, and that is sharing knowledge. So, but what's architecture got to do with sustainability? Well, there's got quite a lot to do, actually. The built environment is responsible for almost 40% of the carbon emission, the global carbon emission. That is a whopping 40%. That's not good. Something's got to be done. So design is a powerful tool. It kind of allows us to, via questions, to sort of create a safe space for deep exploration and brainstorming solutions, which is fantastic. So we can, with questions, we can resolve really, really complex challenges, like climate emergency. An enormous challenge, probably is the biggest challenge that as humanity we ever faced. But when you break it down, and this is what I try to display with my graphic, when you break it down, there's a lot of different challenges, and we just need to come forward with tiny solutions, which altogether will bring the big solution to the climate emergency. So I think we should all experiment and understand more from one another by asking questions. It's an extremely vibrant era for us, for the planet, so I take that as a very energetic time. So we all need to be creative. We need not to have any fear and push technology forward. So in the last few years, I've been involved in several prototypes, and I'll show you a few. I've developed a food academy, which is basically a combination of architecture, sustainability, farming, and nutrition. Again, innovation, technology is a combination of different disciplines. I've designed an off-the-grid biochemistry lab right in the middle of Liverpool. And at the moment, I'm working on a skate park. It's actually a low-impact skate park where we're trying to utilize some low-carbon concrete and increase biodiversity. So what is architecture nowadays, especially in connection with climate emergency? To me, architecture is becoming a very complex science. We need to understand about engineering, physics, biophilia, BIM, statistics. It is really, really complex. So how can we continue as architects to be creative? Simple, we ask questions. So the difficult part when we ask questions is knowing what to ask and when to ask. So we need to, as architects, as designers, we need to challenge the brief at early stage of the development. So at the moment I'm working on a large development for the city of Cambridge, and I'm constantly challenging the client on some important decisions. I'm asking, have you considered circular economy? Why is the lifespan is only 25 years? Should we consider disassembly, for example? Can we reuse any of the materials? And I continue to brainstorm until together we find a solution or a compromise that we're all comfortable with. So early engagement is very important, and it's important when we bring the entire team together, where we can actually push forward some more sustainable targets. So in England, the design process is organized in stages from 0 to 7. 0 is obviously the start, is when you evaluate the brief, understand the program, and assess the risks. Often, when I find myself at stage 0, I ask the client to take a step back into what I call stage -1. And that gives us the opportunity to reassess the brief, probably reevaluate the risk as well, but most importantly, we can reconsider the sustainable targets and push those forward in a more positive way. So often in the building environment, the construction industry, we consider sustainability some sort of expensive gadget or some particular technology or something that is actually slowing the process down. But most often, it's actually an opportunity. Sustainability, it is an opportunity. Nature gives us some extraordinary opportunities, and as architects, we got this tremendous responsibility to add value and consider building as an organism, as a continuation, almost like an evolution to nature. This is what I call positive design, is working with nature and not against nature. In architecture, we do a lot of research. We need to understand products. We need to identify a way of reducing waste, for example, understanding production, and making sure that we specify materials that are easy maintainable, they're durable, and they're for the future. We need to reduce that 40% that I mentioned earlier. We need to use local materials, for example, so we can reduce the necessity for transportation, which decrease pollution. We need to look at any passive elements, like orientation of the building. We need to make the most of what the site is giving us. Overall, it's an holistic approach. It's not looking at things only from one perspective. We need to all come together and find an answer. It's sharing knowledge. We might carry the best knowledge on our own, but it's only by talking together, listening to one another, that we can find the truth. Communication is a dialogue. It comes from Greek. It's dia, through, and logos, speech. Questions and solutions requires only one thing, effective communications. It's a two-way system. It's questioning and listening to the answer. In the end, good question inform, great question transform. Thank you.